My dreams are nightmares. How can I sleep? You got the gun against me.
What's going on, everybody? KingofDragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the Mattel WWE Elite Collection Series 77 Big Viscera. And so here we have Viscera posing out of the packaging. Before we take a look at the figure, let's actually run through his accessories really fast. Viscera does come with 3 pairs of hands. We do get a pair of fists. We get a pair of grip hands. Then we also get a pair of style pose hands. Finally, his last accessory is the WWF Hardcore title, which does look really nice. It does need a little bit of customization to make it look a little more dilapidated, but it's still a really nice accessory. Other than that, Viscera here doesn't come with anything else. I think he comes with just enough what you need. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually have a closer look at Viscera. So here we have a closer look at Viscera, and I think this is my favorite rendition of the character. I really wasn't a fan of Mabel. I think that was before my time. I think the World's Largest Love Machine was funny, but it wasn't great. And then Big Daddy V had potential. It just didn't go as planned. But Viscera here is really nice, and like I said, this is probably my favorite rendition of the character. Really do like the head sculpt. Mattel did a fantastic job with the head sculpt. It does capture Viscera's viciousness, I should say. He looks very angry, as he should, and that's pretty much how Viscera was. He was a really big, angry enforcer for The Undertaker, and that is what we have right here. Really do like it. It looks really nice. There is a little bit of smudging on mine, which I can brush off right now, but this is almost straight out of the package, and I'll go on in a little bit about what I mean almost straight out of the package. I do want to touch on his hair. This is something that I'm actually surprised Mattel did something differently. They actually made his hair a separate piece. Normally when they have a head sculpt like this, the mohawk is part of the head sculpt, but they actually did sculpt a crevice and added the mohawk, so that's really cool. I am surprised that Mattel did that, and it does make the figure look that much better because they didn't have to paint the hair. It looks so much nicer, so good job on Mattel there. That's about where I'm going to end the praise for Mattel, because there's so much that this figure could have been. I don't know why they made some of the choices they made, but they made them anyway. So, for starters, let's have a look at his ring gear. Viscera is a really big guy, but as you can see, he's wearing this really big, really thick coat, and I know it does make him look bigger than what he really is, but yeah, this was probably the worst thing that Mattel could have done, is just make this a really, really thick rubber jacket, because now it does limit articulation, and that's one thing I really don't like, is when figures have limited articulation. I don't know why they just didn't go with a vest for Viscera. He wore an all-black jumpsuit with a black vest. They could have easily done that. I don't like the way that the silver is painted on mine. You can see it pretty much misses the mark on almost all angles, so that's a bad thing, especially here in the front, because the front is what you see on this figure, and the jacket isn't removable, so yeah, that's pretty much how it has to be, and I'm a little bit disappointed in that. Paint on the back is a little bit better, but I don't really like that what little paint Viscera actually has. They did a very terrible job, and I do have to deduct points from there. But I do like the look of the figure. He looks imposing. I just wish they had gone with a soft goods jacket for him. I think that would have been a much better choice, but seeing as how The Fiend was in this series, they did make a lot of cost-cutting measures just to include The Fiend, so yeah, there's things to like about this figure, things to not like. The jacket is both really nice looking, but really hindering at the same time, because it does limit his articulation. I do like the arms. The arms do look really good. They did a really good job sculpting that really leathery jacket look. Now, my only problem is that the arms have a different sheen than the jacket. If the jacket and the arms had the same amount of sheen, I'd be more inclined to like the way he came out. But like I said, it's not bad. It's just that it could have been done better. I do like that they gave him the fist MMA gloves, but as you can see right here, they didn't paint his fingers, and you can see his fingernail, and I'm just going to bring out one of his alternate hands here. They did paint his fingers on all the other hands, so they did miss out on the paint. Again, what little paint this figure has, Mattel did a terrible job and terrible choices. Now, I know Viscera sometimes did wear gloves underneath his MMA gloves, so I guess that's the look that they were trying to go with this. But then that doesn't excuse why his style pose hand and grip hands have paint. That's one thing I really, really don't understand. And they could have either painted his hand here or just left all of them black. Either one would have been much better than having two pairs of hands with paint and then the fist having no paint. So underneath this undersuit is the King Mabel body, which was a really good mold. I don't have King Mabel, so I don't have it to compare, but I do know that underneath this rubber suit is the King Mabel body, and it's a really nice big body for Viscera. Now, I did mention that he is almost straight out of the packaging, and I do have to point out that I did modify this figure before the review, and it's something that I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to end up doing. I did end up cutting his jacket a little bit. Now, yeah, I did miss the seam by quite a lot on this side. This side, it's not so bad. Now, the way I went ahead and did this is that I cut at an angle, at an inward angle, so that when it moves, it looks a little more natural, and then when it sits back down, you can hardly even see that I cut it, and that's one reason why I cut it the way I did. And I did try to follow the wrinkles here, so that's why that looks the way it does. But yeah, if you're not moving it, it does fit nicely when you cut at an angle, and even when I do it like that, you can barely even tell I cut it. Now, another point that I did cut was right under here. This one I just went straight in because you're not going to see this one too much. And this is just to help with articulation. His articulation was really limited with this rubber coat, so what I did is just gave him a little bit more articulation. Again, not a fan of the rubber coat on how it is bulky and limits articulation, but it does look good. I'll give him credit with that. And one thing I do like is he has these really big, massive boots, and I believe these are the same boots they use for Undertaker and Kane. Really good choice there. I think I used these boots for my Andre the Giant custom, so they're a really good choice to have for this figure. So yeah, there's things to like about Viscera, things to not like. I do appreciate what Mattel was going for, but in execution, it doesn't really work. And if I do have to give props on one thing, it's this head sculpt. I was always scared of Viscera when I was a little kid because the Ministry was scary to a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, however old I was at the time. So he was very scary to me when I was growing up, but I do appreciate the character and the way the Ministry was handled up until the corporate Ministry. But we're not getting into wrestling right now. We're just focusing on the figures. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually compare them to other figures you may have in your collection. And so here we have Big Viscera posed next to an Ultimate Edition's Brock Lesnar and a basic Jeff Hardy. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually move on to his articulation. Now, Viscera here does sport some interesting parts of articulation, which unfortunately, because of this rubber overlay, we can't really get to. And, well, I'll explain that in a little bit. But first, his head is on a ball joint. Now, it does appear like he doesn't have too much movement, but his head actually shifts, so you can get him to look up, and you can shift it to make him look down. So I don't know what joint is going on here. I think it feels like a double ball joint, but I really don't think so, because it doesn't have the range of a double ball joint, but it does have the pivoting forward and back of a double ball joint. So it actually might be a double ball joint. It might not. I'm not 100% sure, but that is a really interesting joint. We do get head tilt because of that, and it's pretty good range. As you can see, he moves around really nicely. Does turn left and right, no problem. And one thing I do have to credit them is they did paint his neck. They could have easily left that black, but yeah, they painted his neck flesh tone, so good job, Mattel. Okay, so he does have shoulders that go out to the side all the way horizontal. Does go all the way around. We do have a bicep swivel, which works no problem. We have a single bend at the elbow, a swivel and hinge at the wrist, and that works really nicely. So I do believe that he has a ball joint here in the torso. Now, I say that because we do have some side-to-side movement, some forward, some back, and some rotation. Although, if we lift up this jacket here, you can see he does have a cut right here for a waist swivel. And yeah, that is swiveling at the waist, but he also feels like there's a joint here at the mid-torso because we have a ball joint that pivots side to side and some rotation. So we have a ball joint torso that gives us side to side movement, some back, some forward, although it's very minuscule because of this. We do have a waist swivel right there. His legs do kick forward all the way to 90 degrees, all because of the way I modified his coat here, as you can see. That's really nice. They also go out all the way to the side because I didn't modify it. If you didn't modify it and the cuts weren't there, his leg would only go up to about there. But because of the cuts I made, his leg goes all the way out. Something you guys might want to be interested in doing is cutting this the way I did, but that's entirely up to you. We do have a thigh swivel up high, which works really nice. We have double bend in the knee, which goes up pretty far for a big guy. I do like that. We have a swivel at the boot, which works no problem. Then we have a really stiff foot that goes back and forward. And then we do have some slight rocker ankle for a big Viscera here. So really do like the figure. There's things to like, there's things to not like about it. But I'm happy that we do get another member to the ministry. I think he's a really nice addition to the collection. And that foot is still really stiff. I gotta break that joint in. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually get him posed for my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this review. And so here we have Big Viscera posed for my final thoughts, and overall, it's a hit and miss figure for me. I think there's things to like about this figure, there's things to not like about it. Now, if you saw the pictures when I took of his accessories, you will notice that he has two right grip hands. That's mine. Mine has two right grip hands, which is a little bit unfortunate. With interchangeable parts, you're bound to get mix and matches, and unfortunately, I just happened to get two right hands for his grip hands. But all the other hands came out properly, which I do appreciate that. I could have easily gotten so many mix match hands that it's not even funny. But having Viscera here in hand, I do feel like he's a necessary pickup for Attitude Era fans. I think he's a really nice looking figure. He looks good. The only problem you might have with him is posing. Viscera here isn't going to be doing much posing now. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, I know a lot of the times posing figures is what you're supposed to do, but Viscera here isn't the most athletic guy. He's athletic for a big guy, but he's not going to be going around doing kung fu, hustle, action kicks, or anything like that. He's a big, slow, methodical wrestler, and this figure actually does a pretty good job of capturing that really well. Now, I would have liked it if his jacket was soft goods or even pleather. I think that would have been a much better option than this rubber overlay, but again, it still looks good, and Viscera here is going to look good in your display. For play, I don't really see him that useful. I think they could have done so many things differently with this figure, but that's not for me to say. If it was me designing this figure, I definitely would have given him maybe a jacket as an accessory and given him his vest. But overall, I still feel like Viscera here is a must-have for Attitude Era fans. If you're not a fan of the Attitude Era and you don't really know who Viscera is, you can go ahead and skip this figure. But me personally, this will look good next to my Ministry Undertaker, and hopefully we do get some more Ministry figures down the road. With that being said, guys, I'm KingofDragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go check out all my other action figure reviews as well as all my other WWE videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you would like to see me review, let me know down in the comments. And if it fits in my collection, I'll definitely have a look at it. While you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos. And as always, ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.